The next important portion of this kickoff period is establishing relationships with your students. Now, I know that this is probably hammered over your head. Relationships matter. Relationships matter. The reality is that relationships do matter. Students need to know where you stand, and they need to know that you are predictable and consistent. They also need to know that you genuinely care about who they are as human beings and that you yourself are a human being. They want to know that you respect them, and in turn, they will respect you. The old adage that respect is earned doesn't work for me. I respect my students 100% on the first day of class. I let them show me what they want to show me. And I genuinely try to get to know something special about each and every one of my students. I try to joke with them, have a little fun with them, recognize them, and reward them without reward points. This doesn't mean that you need to have a classroom management system in your room. In fact, for the last couple of years, I haven't even had a classroom management system. I have one in my back pocket if I need it. Some classes do. But I also really love to just manage my classroom on relationships alone. Getting to know who wants to joke around, getting to know who needs firm but fair responses from me. When I get to know my students and when they get to know me, it builds a community of learners. The reality is that when you're teaching language arts, you're often going to be asking them, especially when it comes to writing, to share things that are personal to them, share the things that they like, share the things they're interested in. They're going to tell you stories that reflect personal experiences. You're going to ask them to share those ideas with others. You're going to need to have a community in your classroom that builds upon trust. They're going to have to be able to support one another and work together. They're going to need to trust you when they come back to the guided reading table, that you genuinely are there to help and support them, that you believe in them, that you think that they're doing a great job. One of the easiest ways to do this is just to get to know your students. Know one thing about each kid in your class. Be able to name that one thing and then comment on that. Tell them how special they are. Give them that positive attention. Someone told me very early on in my career, when I generally struggled with behavior management and classroom management, they told me that the things that you pay attention to are the things that get repeated. So if you have a very disruptive student in your class, the more attention you give to that student, the more that behavior is going to be repeated. And I know it's really difficult to just ignore the student. I'm not suggesting that we ignore the student, but sometimes one of the most beneficial things that we can do when building relationships is focus on those that are doing the right thing. It's amazing when I walk into my classroom and I have students who aren't getting started right away, that the minute that I start commenting on how thankful I am that those 4 or 5 students are doing the right thing, how all of a sudden other students start to get started too. That they don't need a personal invitation to get started. All they want is that positive attention because they care about what you think. The last thing you want is for them to stop caring what you think, or that they think that you don't care about them. So as you're doing this kickoff period in your literacy, it is important that as we're establishing routines, we create different types of activities that help us build connections to our students. Genuine, caring connections so that they know that you are an adult in the classroom that has rules, maintains rules, but also does it in a fair and respectful way. And that you're not going to fly off the handle for the smallest little thing. You're not going to make rules just for the sake of making rules. And you're going to pay attention to the positive behavior because you want them to want to impress you. So when we're designing various activities, it's important that we do so with that in mind, that we take things slow, that we try not to rush straight into, well, I've got to teach them all the things. Teach them how to take risks. Give them tasks that they might not be 100% confident in. Give them the choices that they need to write something that's of interest to them. Don't need to give them all of the rules and all of the information. See what they can do. Allow them to take risks. Encourage them to take risks. Give them opportunities to really show you who they are. And when they show you who they are, celebrate it. Some of the activities that I like to do in this kickoff period of starting my language and literacy block is the heart map. Now, I love to create a heart map with my students because it reinforces the ideas that we're focusing on brainstorming and organizing our ideas, but it also shares what students like and what's important to them. I love to get them to fill out this heart map and put different things on the map that talk about what they like to do, what they are interested in, who is in their family, what makes them special, what makes them unique. All of those factors are a great way for you to really focus on who they are as individuals. It also is a great reference tool if they get stuck later on and they're writing about what to write about. You can always bring back out this heart map and ask students to reflect on things that they know about. Good writers often write about things that they know about. So having an activity that, one, allows me to get to know a little bit more about them, and two, can be used to help us brainstorm ideas later on for writing is a great way to build that community, get to know your students, build those relationships, while also reinforcing the learning expectation of brainstorming and planning. The majority of our language block is going to be built on student choice and voice, and allowing them to express their ideas about what it is that they think is going to be important for them as learners. So in order to do this, in this kickoff period, we really need to establish a safe place for students to be able to write whatever they want in whatever style they want, and just begin to experiment. And as a teacher, it's really important to remember that this is diagnostic. We're really trying to get a good baseline for where students are. I like to hand out to start a writing survey. I want to know about their personal attitudes about writing. I want to know what they like, what they don't like, and where the barriers and blockages might be for me as a teacher to overcome some of those objections. Some students really like to write, but don't like it when they don't know the parameters in which they're going to write. This means, as a teacher, I'm going to have to really get them to be comfortable with taking some risks as a writer. I'm going to need to be super supportive of that. If I have students that hate writing, I need to start digging into why they hate writing. A lot of the times it's because they don't feel successful, or because they've had some personal experiences in the past that might make them think that they can't write, such as I'm not a good speller, I'm not very fast at printing, all of those mechanical components that go into actually writing things on a paper, that a lot of students will believe I'm not good at writing because they're not good at certain things and certain aspects of writing. But really getting them to focus on, there's a lot of criteria of what makes a good writer, and identifying that they are strong at one thing and they just need to work on something else. This changing mindsets about who they are as writers is one of my most important and integral roles, especially in this kickoff. So one of the things that I will start to do is, after I've done my writing survey, I will just simply ask students to write me something. We briefly talk about the idea that we can write paragraphs or reports, or we can write stories. I'm not worried at this point about the form or the style of the story, because again, my goal here at the beginning of the year is really going to be on brainstorming and idea generation. So as long as they have an idea for the story and they can brainstorm the very basics of who the characters and the setting and the problem and solution of the story, or they can gather some information and write a simple paragraph, that's really what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for all of the details here to make sure that before they ever write me a report, that they have a firm grasp and understanding of how to write a 5-paragraph essay with a topic sentence and a thesis statement, and how to structure an opening and a conclusion sentence. That's not the goal here at the beginning. The goal here at the beginning is twofold. One, making sure that I get a good diagnostic base for where they're starting and where there may be problems. And two, just getting them to overcome some of the objections and change their mindset about who they are as a writer. That's my goal. The way I do that is by simply asking them to write me something, anything. And they come up with all of these ideas, and they're constantly coming up saying, is this okay? What if I wrote about this? Is this okay? My answer is yes. Now, in this beginning period, I'm also not marking them. I'm just gathering diagnostic material for myself. Where are they? What are they struggling with? Where are the gaps? Where are the holes? How do I then take this information and plan to teach them all of these components? It's going to be ugly and it's going to be messy. And I'm really going to have to push some of my students to take the risk of writing something that there are no rules, and getting them to write what it would be appropriate for grade level, and not rushing through it to get done, or not taking way too long and just writing chapter after chapter of the same rambling story. These are all things that I'm accepting at the beginning of the year, but it's diagnostic. It tells me what I need to do to get those students to the next step. So your goal here is to get them to trust you by giving them a task, letting them be creative, letting them be inquisitive, let them be curious, and let them write whatever they want, however they want it, even if it's bad. Now, if they're rushing through it, I might give them that immediate feedback. Hey, it sounds to me like you're rushing through that. I want you to do a little bit more because I believe that you can. The words that you choose to use when providing feedback, oral feedback, meeting with your students and giving them real, caring, kind feedback is going to be that piece that helps you build those relationships. Encouraging them, telling them something you really liked about their writing, giving them a suggestion of what they could try next, and watch them skip back to their desk feeling really proud of something they wrote, that you were the safe place that they could just express themselves to. That is a really key goal in this kickoff period, and it builds relationships better than anything with your students. And it also helps to change their mindset and provides you that diagnostic assessment. So it's really important in this kickoff point that we are taking this opportunity to really get this information and using this curriculum task, this writing task, to help us build some of those relationships with our students, build a community, and build a sense of belonging with our students, that you're that safe place for them to land.